States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to welcome all of you to our September regular Board of Ed meeting, and we have some very special, do you want to introduce our visitors first? I'm sorry.
Well, we certainly have our 13-year-old Babe Ruth baseball team, so we welcome them here tonight, and certainly Martha Shoemaker and Jason Adler from the WFCT, and Pat Fedor from WASA.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to a presentation. We have very special baseball players here tonight. Our Babe Ruth 13-year-old Waterford All-Stars made it to the Babe Ruth World Series. They won 3 games, and most importantly, you also received the Good Sportsmanship Award. And we just wanted to let you know how very proud we are of you. And also, Mr. Discordia told us at our last meeting that a lot of you helped him at his summer academy while you were practicing baseball and getting everything else done in between. So we just wanted to recognize you and let you know how proud we are of you. So we just have a certificate here for you. I'm just going to call out your names. And Lisa Berry, our secretary, and Mr. Giard, our superintendent, and myself will shake your hand and wish you well, and I just want to remind you we are very, very proud of you. I just hope I pronounced your names right. Ryan Batten.
Right away.
Jared Burrows. Ben Jerome. Sam Lanuza. Mike Morelli. Ryan O'Connell. Connor Tedesco. Matt Stanford. Anthony Sanucci. Dave Lappy. Kyle Jones. And Tim Strong. I know you probably do have homework to do. There's a football game on tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Hold up, guys.
The Twitter moment. The Twitter moment, yes. Gotta get the coaches in too. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine, fine. If they show up in the next couple of minutes, have them pop in. We'll give them a round of applause. All right? Great.
Bye. Okay, is there any public comment tonight? Any public comment? Okay, now we'll move down to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minutes from the August 25th, 2016 meeting and the monthly expenditure report? Marcia, and is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ma'am? Okay, any discussion or any questions?
I've been notified of two changes on the minutes.
Okay.
One being the motion for approving MIM to the town's retirement commission. I think the original motion was made by Kathleen, I've been informed. So that would be an amendment to the minutes.
Okay.
And then the other change would be on the Atlantic Broadband. While they do help businesses and provide scholarships, the actual event on the 16th was not necessarily related to that. So we'll just change the wording so the event wasn't tied to scholarships.
Right. Is that all right with you, Marcia? Yeah. And then, okay. Okay, without any further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Now, reading and review of correspondence received. We received a nice thank you note from MIM for a plant that we had sent. Do you have any correspondence?
None to report.
Okay. Moving along. Superintendent's report.
Sure. Just a couple, want to reference a couple items in front of you tonight. And most of you probably have heard that Gene Ryan is going to be retiring effective March 1st of 2017, so about 7 months from now or so. In front of you tonight you have a draft timeline of how and when we plan to fill that vacancy. The plan would be to post that in the very near future, such as tomorrow or Monday, and have a process very similar to what's been done in the past in terms of surveying staff and parents and students, and forming a committee at the school level, and then presenting finalists to me, and then ultimately to the board. The plan will be to fill that prior to the holiday break, primarily because we know January gets very busy with budget season, and if the person has to give notice to their current employer, it allows enough time for that to occur, as well as a successful transition. So we plan to move forward with that process in the very near future. Enrollment update. You have the updated numbers in your board packet. We continue to monitor K classes at both Great Neck and Oswegatchie. So that was just an informational item for all of you.
How are the classes working out?
Reports from the principals have been promising. It's not without challenge having K classes that big, that's for sure. That was certainly discussed at the August board meeting, but both principals along with staff and other support staff within the school seem to be addressing the needs at the current time. It's something that we're in regular contact with Mrs. Fedor and Mr. Osmond on, I want to say a daily basis, but certainly weekly. Writers Workshop, I'll have Craig tick off 2 in a row. One being a review of the Writers Workshop PD. As you know, we rolled out Readers Workshop last year, first full year of implementation. We're rolling out Writers Workshop this year with a very dynamic presenter, a national expert in the field, and the feedback from staff on that presenter, Kate Roberts, has been very positive. And Craig will review the offerings that we had on August 30th district-wide.
So, thank you. It's a little unusual to have professional development so early in the year, district-wide like this, but with this sort of author and presenter, I had to pick her like now or wait until after around Thanksgiving to kind of get her back, just because of her own personal availability.
See, I thought it made a lot of sense to have it before school started, so the teachers had a lot more information to go on, for their classes.
So before school, on August 30th, I'll get to, but the elementary teachers had a full plate there, and so in early September we provided feedback on Writers Workshop, and as you can see by the survey a very strong agreement that this was the right presenter. This is now the third year we've been in workshop. This is the first year we're officially rolling out Writers' Workshop. It's not to say that it's the first year some teachers have done Writers' Workshop, because our teachers really want to do things right immediately, so they've been trying this. The takeaways that I was culling from the information that teachers would like to spend some PLC time on is to maybe create mini lessons based upon their students' needs, to kind of refine their demonstration notebook and conferring binder with their colleagues so that they have these artifacts to use in their classroom. Just basically planning time and reflecting with colleagues, and to maybe work on some non-fiction or informational writing units. So, we'll have to make sure that we devote either some PLC time or some release time to accommodate those needs. The good news is we have Kate coming back in, as I said, later November, and then we'll plan the second semester. Teachers have identified the needs for more PD, and the bullets on that first cover page. And so I'll be sharing that with Kate. We will be developing a plan to really provide the teachers what they're looking for to implement Writers' Workshop successfully. But all in all, I think we're off to a very good start.
Did you also have workshops going on at the opening week of school as well?
I did, and Marcia will be going over that next.
Oh, okay. And in the other schools, you had, besides your Writers' Workshop, you had professional development in all the school buildings, right?
For August 30th,
right,
when we didn't have students, I'll be going over that next. We had workshops for every teacher, every paraprofessional, and administrators sat in.
Right.
This was a workshop that we conducted in early September, and we did one day for K-1 teachers, one day for grades 2 and 3, and one day for grades 4, 5, and 6. We're introducing the middle school for the first time to the workshop model, and because of this day was such a success, both the literacy coach, Eileen Boyce, and the middle school principal, Jim Sachs, asked to expand that to all language arts teachers 6 through 8. And so when she comes back in November, working with Eileen Boyce to plan that out, we'll be expanding that offering and really putting that Writers' Workshop format in all of the schools.
I was very impressed by all the comments, and certainly they all spoke so highly of that dynamic speaker. But I also went further and read the comments on some of the other ones, and it might be and I might be jumping the gun because you haven't even reported on it yet, and I apologize, Greg. But it might be just the subject matter itself. But I noticed the social studies wasn't as well received as the
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
And then did you have a question?
My question was about timing.
Okay, Kathleen?
I did too. I just wanted to make a quick comment that it was a glowing report, and maybe we should know who Kay Roberts is. What is her background?
Her background is teacher, middle school teacher in New York. Worked for Columbia Teachers College for many years in the Reading and Writing Project, and has been an author of several books, and does a weekly blog. And she left the Teachers College Project and has started her own consulting firm, which is how we're able to have access to her. The waiting list to get an official Teachers College consultant is between 3 and 5 years.
Wow.
And they usually pick urban districts first. So we really have to find presenters that have that experience, that have broken off on their own to really engage with our faculty.
Jody? Sure. So she sounds like a remarkable person, and it seems like the teachers really appreciate it. I think in some of the comments, what you're explaining, it's lucky to have her come back. but if you look through this, it looks like some of the teachers would have liked to have seen her actually in action teaching the class and conferring with the students. So,
and just to unpack November a little bit, that sort of lab class, which is where the consultant meets with the grade level and says what they're going to be doing, what part of workshop, and then takes one of our classes and teaches, and then all of the teachers sit in the fishbowl around the classroom watching that, and then afterwards there's a debrief where we leave the classroom, the substitute covers, and she unpacks what she did and has a dialogue with teachers. That's what we're going to be doing in November. So the design was to talk about the components of workshop first before we model. But we've done the similar modeling for Reader's Workshop. So we've done the Reader's Workshop, sort of what is it, and the components, and then we've had a different presenter lab classroom. And it is met with a high degree of success. Teachers really value it because it's what can be done with our Waterford students and our Waterford classroom, and how we can maybe adjust our teaching.
yeah, great. Thank you very much.
We had a number of teachers spend time with Kate Roberts over the summer on their own time, their own choosing, and got some exposure even before school started in the summer. So,
She did that for free for us?
well, that was a regional workshop or whatever.
So we basically paid the tuition for Learn for teachers who wanted to give up their time in the summer, which is a credit to them, to do a 4-day deeper unpacking of Writer's Workshop. And those classroom teachers have the opportunity to get a repeat in the district for her, or to say, you know what, I just want to do my kids. And I've given my time in the summer. We allow their teachers to choose what they want.
It's just proof not all teachers just take the whole summer off.
That's correct.
They work all the time. Martha?
I was one of the ones fortunate to do the summer one, but I want to know the teacher about it, so totally dynamic. And I've heard about the summer one, that a lot of teachers know the teachers are implementing this, and what we tend to do is start our own Writer's Workshop teacher group.
Great.
As we go through this program, we can kind of talk our way through some of these problems and break it to what we're doing in different types of housing in the
That's great. It's good news. Okay.
So,
Any other questions on
now
that?
getting to the
Sorry.
Thursday.
Here we go, Marcia.
No problem. So before school started, the day after convocation, but before school started, we had Professional Development Day, and at the elementary level, we had a national math presenter come in out of Boston and really show a lot of how numbers really make sense, and let's not talk about the algorithm. So if you think about how we all learned, including myself, it was follow the algorithm, follow the recipe, memorize it, and then you'll learn. And this was really making sense of math concepts first, then applying it to the higher level algorithms, and all of the teachers really found that highly successful. It was a mentally exhausting half day, and so when you look at the social studies, we had the primary teachers in the social studies in the morning, the upper elementary teachers with the math all morning, and then they flipped and they took the upper elementary teachers went to the social studies in the afternoon, and the elementary teachers, primary teachers went to the math. I think for some, there was a bit of a fatigue in the afternoon because it was just a lot. When you talk about making number sense in the upper elementary the way he did, he could have spent a week. He had 3 hours, and let me just tell you, we got our money's worth. He did not stop, and that's what was great. With the social studies, some of our faculty have a good understanding of what inquiry is because they have a proclivity toward science. Others don't. I wanted to make sure that there was a baseline of what the inquiry approach was for social studies, so that we'll have that as a guiding principle in our social studies teaching, and then that will get us ready for when we do elementary science next. So trying to reinforce that for some. So to Marcia's point, some people might not have needed it, but when you unpack a curriculum, you want to make sure that you provide an equal foundation to all. The last hour of that 3-hour was a grade level teacher in Waterford showing their colleagues who were on the social studies committee what the units really were. That was really the elementary folk. The secondary folk, all middle school, high school teachers and paraprofessionals went to David Howe and got a lot of information, maybe comments, more than some wanted because of their either receptivity or some people have heard from him before. But just strategies to connect all kids and really, kids are not coming to school ready to learn why, to be aware, how to help. A lot of good strategies, which I think I know the middle school has a plan to use the same language now, so that they've learned from this workshop, so that there's a common language for the faculty to talk about when referring children to our RTI program, which we call STAT. And I think for the paraprofessionals, it was also a great in-depth workshop from a very high-powered speaker. In the afternoon, then it was really more department meetings, which were then directed and driven by either the curriculum leaders at the middle school or the department heads at the high school, based upon what those leaders, teacher leaders, felt important. For the elementary special ed teachers, they actually conducted some support in the afternoon for helping the paraprofessionals at the building understand who's going to be the children that they're going to be working with. And our social workers and psychologists at the elementary level planned that afternoon to make that a productive afternoon for the paraprofessionals and to ensure that in the first day of school, everyone is ready to engage with the students they're working with. So on one day when you have 240 teachers and 60 paraprofessionals,
it's a challenge.
Getting 100% approval would be almost unrealistic, but the vast majority of people, I think, found it beneficial. And we'll be bringing this information to the Teacher Evaluation and Professional Development Committee soon to help make sense of this and drive what is going to go on in November.
Any questions?
Just a quick comment. I think it's important to start school on a high note, and I think from all that I read, no matter what the other speakers were doing, the writer's workshop person was a hard act to follow, and she certainly inspired a lot of people, and that's what we wanted.
But the timing was they did the 30th before they did the writers.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you. If we could go back just for a moment to the math consultant grade, a number of the teachers asked if they could have access to his website.
Yes.
So that would be something you could be...
We've given that. We've given, he has a lot of free material. Our math coaches have surveyed the building, and right now we want to understand and unpack all the free material before we buy anything else. So that's what's going on right now. In November, we'll have a different math speaker, John Selling, work with our teachers, and we've already purchased some materials because we're going to be giving a parents' night opportunity for parents to be engaged with this speaker too about number sense, and an opportunity for parents to kind of also get some of these kits that they could work with their own children at home.
That's good.
And providing the teachers with some reinforcement math materials to differentiate the math instruction. So,
Follow up to, thank you, that's very positive. But go back to Martha's comment, it brought to mind that I think maybe the board might approve, like, I think everyone knows this board is very, stresses the importance of professional development, but Martha brought out a good point when she said that the teachers themselves were going to get together and continue with the writers' workshop. So brought to mind perhaps as we go forward with some of these variables, as I saw again in the social emotional learning aspect too, that they're coming up with new ideas, new strategies, and maybe just a little list. So for our information, just to see what new outcomes, what positive outcomes came from some of this development. Like, not to give a lot, just very briefly, because it's interesting. It shows that these are very worthwhile, and that the teachers are really gaining from having this.
fortunate that the board is committed to professional learning of adults to help the students.
Thank you.
Anybody? Ma'am?
I have a more general question. How were the speakers chosen? You referenced a committee. Is there...
with the math elementary person, it was driven from our math coaches.
Okay.
A survey was then done for all teachers to say, this is what we want, so that we're putting our money to good use. And based upon that survey of high approval, we booked this person. The social studies person, the learn consultant, was the person who worked with the committee through the process of building the curricular framework and the inquiry. So we wanted to have the same person present to all faculty to hear that.
How about the trauma, David?
Yeah. So we had him booked from a year ago from regional PD, and it was just for our psychologists and social workers and the 16 other learn communities came together at the Parkland cafeteria to hear him. And they brought back, our psychologists and social workers brought back that it was a great presenter, and they thought all teachers should hear it. And based upon that, we did bring them back just for our Waterford faculty. So when it comes to the big speakers, we really try to make sure that it's what the teachers need. When it comes to the department head work, I rely on the teacher leaders to shape that.
Absolutely.
I was just disappointed in some of the comments about David Howe. Now, do we plan on doing any other workshops on mental health and to help teachers maybe recognize some things in students?
From a district day, I think this was the big one for the year. For the follow-up at the building levels, I have high confidence that that's occurring. I know Jim, as I said, using the language for static and really reinforcing that. To try to make the surveys as non-identifiable as possible, I didn't call out what the parents thought versus teachers thought, and maybe who heard the speaker before. So I think some of the negativity might be that it was just a lot, because it was almost
information heavy.
And for some it might have been a repeat, but it was the same some who wanted everyone to hear it.
It was 3 hours, so that is kind of a long time for...
Intense.
Time is big content, but it's
Yeah.
much over a long period of time.
But when you bring in a speaker like this, it's costly. You want to...
But it's a very important topic. You know, it really is, so...
For social and emotional, another tie-in, which I'll mention in a minute, is we are bringing in Dr. Allen for Parents Academy Night, which obviously staff are welcome to attend, so...
Can we come too?
Always, everybody's welcome, the entire community. I want to commend Craig and other staff for really putting together a quality start to the year from PD. We heard the term national speaker several times. That's a credit to the board for investing more money in PD in this year's budget for last spring. So we're definitely putting that money to good use. Some other items of note as I run through the superintendent's report. The Strategic Planning Committee met on September 12th for their first meeting this fall. We meet again on September 29th, which is next Thursday. And again, that committee made up of staff, board members, community members, administration, really developing a plan that will drive our direction over the next 3 to 5 years. So certainly more to report as we get going, but we're in the midst of it. Just want to point out two Waterford High School seniors are National Merit Scholarship finalists. That's Kayla Mathayowicz and Nathaniel Rowe. What that means is they are in the top 1% in the country on their PSAT scores. That's the main criteria for that, and to have two students reach that height is quite impressive, so we commend them. And Kayla, one of the National Merit Scholar finalists, is also selected for the National Honor Choir. I mentioned that at convocation when she was on with the group, and she's one of 19 from Connecticut that is part of that group going to Texas in November to participate in activities there. So some really strong student presence on a national level. Just a couple of staff updates. I mentioned last meeting we had a middle school teacher depart for an assistant principalship. We have another middle school teacher departing for an administrative position in New London, and that's Louise Hanrahan, a longtime staff member here in Waterford. She'll be doing some assistant principal / literacy specialist work over in New London, and I think it's a credit to the people that this district has employed for a long time, that we have such qualified people that are getting these positions. Jeannie Morgan, who is also a middle school teacher, a special ed teacher, has been named to the board of directors for the Dyslexia Society of Connecticut, and she will oversee activities in southeastern Connecticut, so quite an honor. Jean Morgan, special ed teacher at the middle school. While we're on the subject of staff, our high school athletic director, Dave Sousa, you might have read it in the Waterford Times, has achieved the Certified Master Athletic Administrator certification from the Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, and that is through coursework and continuing education. It is an elite certification, so we commend Dave on that. You may have heard about the Lancer boat in the paper. That was a almost 5-month project. It was a boat,
Isn't it? When you think about it?
what I think is an incredible program. That's really the work of our marine science program at the high school in that program, and the fact that something that small can go across the Atlantic is pretty darn impressive. But it's getting some great press here and in Europe.
That's because it's a Lancer.
That's it. So I know
The
there'll
other
be...
piece was that the teacher and the student worked through the summer tracking that boat. I just really commend.
Yep. That's a good point.
They didn't just put it in the water and...
Right, forget about it. No, it's been an ongoing, and will continue. They're working with the people in Ireland to relaunch it and track it as it goes on its next journey. So, pretty neat stuff. Parents, you have a Parents Academy Night flyer in front of you. We're launching our first annual Waterford Public School Parents Academy Night. The format for that night will be a keynote speaker kicking off at 6. That's Dr. Thomas Allen. He's out of Essex, Connecticut, and he'll be talking about that social and emotional piece and what parents can do to help their child cope with the rigors and stress of being a youngster today, both in and out of school. And then that will be followed by 2 different breakout sessions, which parents will have free choice, and those breakout sessions are offered by our very qualified teachers and administrators here in the district on a variety of topics, and we're getting very good feedback already from parents. I encourage you to stop by. There'll be, during roaming around time, the breaks and the pre-keynote, we'll have community tables set up from organizations such as the Service Bureau, Brian T. Daigle Foundation will have a table, Rec and Park, and a number of other community agencies to reach out to parents. So what I think will be a great night. Reminder, Caves Tax Convention, if you haven't registered and want to register, Caroline will take care of you. A reminder that our high school team will be presenting on the Positive Foundations program Saturday morning, 8 o'clock.
I'll be there.
Set your alarm, Andre. So we look forward to, it's quite an honor to be selected to present, so we're proud of our high school team for doing that. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Is that schedule actually set for 8 already? Do you know that?
I believe so.
Okay.
We're definitely Saturday morning, first thing.
Okay. That's good to know.
Superintendent, what is the mission of the Parent Academy? What is it?
Yeah, so basically it's a night, the mission is twofold. One, to engage parents who may not have been engaged yet, so making sure that we're engaging parents, and I think the other part of it is educating parents on how they can help us. You know, we often get feedback, I don't know what I can do to help my kid be more successful or stay successful in school. So it's really about engaging in education of parents.
So it's once a year?
It's right now.
Okay.
You know, we'll see what the turnout is like, but
This is the first time?
This is the first time.
Oh,
we're launching that this fall, next month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
And then West Hartford's done something similar to this, and it started out once a year. I think they do it twice a year now, but I was so happy that Tom, decided to do this. I think it's a great idea.
Well, we have a whole team working on it.
Tom and team.
It's certainly not meant to replace or supplant the parent nights that the schools do. We had a bunch of those last year, and those will continue. So this is just more of a district event to get parents. We'll start in the auditorium at the high school, go across the bridge, and the breakouts will be right there. So we look forward to it.
Any more questions? Okay, now we'll move on to committee and other reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
Most of the IT committee. Nothing to do with that, just there's some discussion about IT person for the town.
Okay. Thank you. Amanda?
That's this weekend is the Harlem Wizards versus...
Yes, I should have.
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
Yeah.
That's from Park Lane, because I'm on the Park, I go to the Park Lane meeting, so should be exciting.
Yes, it will be. Thank you. Kathleen?
I just did attend the September 16th Atlantic Broadband event over at the Lyman Allen Museum, and it was a very positive event. They're going to have the gigabit that's going to be very fast and help businesses. So it was a great event. A lot of people from the district were there, and so they're trying to do their best, and they'll be ongoing to talk about the scholarships for the schools that's needed. So that's going forward. If I may have this privilege too, even though it didn't come under, I'd just like to recognize the Eugene O'Neill Theater tonight. They're in Washington, D.C., receiving the National Medal for the Arts. So it's quite an honor. So while we talk about our students in the national news, we're fortunate, and we partner quite a bit with the O'Neill. So we're lucky to have so many prominent things going on here in Waterford. So.
We have a great community.
Thank you.
We do. Thank you. Do you have anything to report from the state?
I do. I brought, which I'll leave with the superintendent, all of the acts that were produced this year, and I didn't realize there were so many. Tom and I talked about that going forward. We want to try to reduce some of the mandates that we're putting forward, looking at those that are no longer relevant, that may be older, but these are the new ones that have come out through the last session. So I'll leave this with you, and we can maybe get a copy for the board.
What we can do is we'll scan and attach that to Friday Note tomorrow.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, I just have a short Youth Service Bureau committee report. They started a new program. Bud Bowes, his real estate agency, when they sell houses, they decided to donate some money to the Youth Service Bureau, and they have donated $1,000. And what Danny's going to do with that money is they're calling it Harvest to Home program, and they're going to buy if families in need. Danny's going to put together a basket of fresh fruits, vegetables, and milk, because we do have the the New London Waterford Interface food locker, but that's mostly perishable goods like cereal and canned goods and things like that. So I think it's an excellent idea that families can get fresh, milk and fruit and vegetables and bread and things like that. And this is going to be, a thing if they need it, But all they have to do is just call the Youth Service Bureau. This is going to be through the Youth Service Bureau and not, Danny didn't want to bother Linda Gear with all this too, so Danny will put together the basket and then have the family come in and pick it up. On October 1st, the Terry Broder Cancer Walk is going to be going on, and the Youth Service Bureau is going to have they call it a Spirit Corner, and it's on the corner of Goshen and Great Neck Road. And if anybody wants to stop by, what we do is we just, we applaud the runners that are coming, some from Old Saybrook, believe it or not, and they end up over at Harkness. And it's a really nice day, and some of those runners are so dedicated, it's unbelievable. As Tom had mentioned, or somebody mentioned, the Harvest Festival that Breckin Parks is going to be doing. It'll be on October 8th. That's a Saturday, and it's going to be over at Waterford Beach from 12 to 4. And we're going to try to get the elementary schools involved. The Youth Service Bureau is going to have a booth again. And last year we had fire trucks and a lot of different things for the kids to do. And it's a nice Saturday afternoon. And in the evening they're going to have fireworks. Camp Dash was a huge success, and I want to kind of piggyback on what Tom had said at the back to school nights. So many parents, we had a Youth Service Bureau table, and so many parents commented on the fact that they loved Camp Dash and they wanted to sign up already. So maybe next year we'll have just a little bit of information. I know our themes for each week change, from year to year, but maybe we will have some information for them in the future. I also wanted to mention that Leah's Foundation is having, in honor of Madeline Guerra, there's a dinner next Thursday from, Stacey, can you help me out, from 6 to 10? And you just have to get online and Google Leah's Foundation, and then they just sign. I'm glad about the dinner. I don't play golf. Okay. I guess that's it for Youth Service Bureau. The School Building Committee, we did not have a meeting because we really don't have too many more things to discuss about the high school, but we're still working on the cameras and also the gym curtain. Correct, that hasn't been installed yet. And then in the spring, we're going to have Jay has to do more plantings on the outside of the high school, but outside of that, we should be able to close the project off, hopefully. Now, the next item. I was wondering if anybody would be so kind to volunteer to serve on, there's 3 committee openings. One is on the Ad Hoc Self-Evaluation Subcommittee, the CABE Committee, and the Waterford Sick Leave Bank. Kevin was on all 3 of those committees, but we have openings there. So please think about it, and if you can call me or email me tomorrow, and then I'll let Caroline know. Or you can let Caroline know directly. But please think about it. Okay, anything else? Okay, now we're down to new business. Discussion of possible action about the agreement between the Waterford Board of Education and the Visiting Nurse Association of Southeastern Connecticut from July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017. There was an enclosure in our packet.
So I apologize. This is obviously rear view mirror. Carolyn is actually the one that found that this was due for a contract renewal. Like I said, it's already in the rear view mirror. They've already been given the 2%. This was budgeted for.
I thought, yeah.
We did approve it during the budget, but I guess there was never any signing of the contract. I'm going to work with VNA for this next year to actually have a multi-year contract rather than do 1-year extensions. They are currently going through negotiations, but she expects it to be in the same range of about 2%.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Any questions? I just had 2 questions. Do we supply EpiPens, or do the students individually have to bring EpiPens
to
school?
The students who require an EpiPen bring to the schools, but with the new law last year, we have to have some EpiPens available at the school level. and what I mean by some is at least one, but from the geography of the building, we have 3 locations at the high school, 2 at the middle, and 2 at the elementary, just because on the square footage. So for those, we purchased that at a supply account, which we provide DNA.
Okay. Hopefully the cost of those will come down.
Well, I know CAPS is working on that. CAPS is the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. I know their legislative committee is in touch with folks in Washington on that very issue.
Okay, and then just one more question, Joe. On Section 5, Section F, we have these 4, you checked those 4 items out, right, before we...
Sorry.
The proof of insurance and all that?
Oh, yeah.
That's, okay, all right, I just want to make sure. I have to sign it, I just want to make sure. Okay, any more questions? Kathleen?
Let's just have to forget who the medical director is now for this case.
Dr. Ehrlich still serves as medical director, and if he puts in, we budget a certain amount, it's been funded for all the years, probably more, and some years he asks for it, and some years he doesn't, based upon how much service he provides to the town and consulting.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other further questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Okay, down to item B, discussion and possible action regarding our Board of Ed goals. Those were also enclosed in our packet. Everybody get a chance to read them? Okay.
I have a question of the chair. How does the board decide on these goals? Okay.
Yes.
I think these...
Go ahead.
I think these are coming back up again. This is another time to review them, to see the status of where we are and how, and I think we'll get a report midterm as to where they're going, but the board usually in the past has gotten together with the superintendent and
some of these are continuous, some are brand new this year, depending on what's going on in our district. But these are ours.
Are they tied into the strategic school plan? I know that you're planning.
That's a great question. This is really, these goals are really to get to June 30th. The strategic plan that is under development and will be probably completed sometime early to mid-spring, I would anticipate would drive or be a major driver of board goals in the future. Certainly we don't have to be limited to that strategic plan in terms of board goals, but I'm sure those will be a major chunk. And certainly there's no pressure or obligation to act on these tonight. It's really, taking last year's board goals, seeing if there's enhancements, additions, or deletions that we want to make.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just had a couple of comments. I've been doing a lot of reading with the strategic committee, and one of the things that I've heard also from parents is that we don't have STEM at Clark Lane, do we?
Well, that's a great question. The answer to that is we absolutely do. We have STEM offerings K to 12.
It's not called that. It's not called that. Okay.
It's certainly not branded that way, and that's one of the things when you'll see it when we go over the magnet school survey data as well, is that I think that's one of the misnomers, and one of the things that we need to do better as a district is market what we do have to our own families, and make sure that they're aware when they're making school choices what we do offer. Is it packaged neatly and nicely in a comprehensive STEM program? Not necessarily, because our schools aren't necessarily themed, i.e. a magnet school, but certainly do we have STEM offerings, Craig? Certainly.
So science, we offer technology, we have tech ed plus computers. When it comes to engineering, I'm going to talk about some of the electives which are brand new this year at the middle school, and math we certainly do. I had the opportunity to be at Clark Lane last week, and I was meeting with the reading coach, literacy coach, and the principal comes in and says, you have to go down to Mrs. Agan's room. She's doing an invention convention. We're building kind of these solar-powered robots, and it was tremendous. And so that is certainly a type of appropriate engineering concept for the middle school. So I echo what Tom had said, that really we do have a solid STEM program at both the middle and high school. Later we'll be talking about a magnet survey and next steps, and one of our next steps is really to, probably brand it a little differently. We've called it for decades a comprehensive high school, and I think we'll just have to show different pathways. And we're like Ledyard maybe did last year. If you read the paper, Kathy Patterson purposely had Ledyard High School show its STEM pathways. I think we need to do the same. But
we definitely do, because I definitely got that out of the survey too. And even the language part too from the surveys. But the STEM also came up when we're doing the strategic planning. And I certainly, when you have a sailboat, a little boat going all the way across the ocean, you're doing something right, and you're doing STEM kind of stuff. But like you just said, it's not labeled that. So we have to do a better job of getting it out there, because believe me, the parents don't think we have it.
Conversations have already taken place and will continue, and that is one of our focus for the year.
Okay. And then unless more on that, I have one more thing. Number 3, promoting the mental health. There's a lot of talk now about doing 15-minute sessions in PE classes or even in regular classes of just mindfulness, de-stressing of kids all the way down to kindergarten level. And I know it's a bit off the radar, but I thought that might be something we might look into, because certainly kids are so stressed out these days that anything we can do to give them a little break and realize how to manage stress and how to relieve the pressure would be a good tactic to learn.
That's a good idea. Kathleen?
If I may, I think the question was, where do we stand with it? I think they're all relevant, and I would just like to commend the administration and the board with, as you looked at professional development days and then you look at our goals, there was a lot of symmetry between them, and also looking at the new Academy for Parents that goes along with the goals. So I think these are very relevant for the rest of the year, and I look forward to the update midterm to see where we are. I know on the world languages we instituted several new courses this year, and that'll be interesting to see how we made out there. So I personally think they're very relevant, and I would like to recognize the superintendent on his great interest in social and emotional learning. We've talked about that. We're hoping that Waterford may eventually even become a pilot district in that regard, so we are working on that. It is very important today, and so I would like to see that remain a high priority. But as we go through the year, I think we'll get the update. I just, from my own perspective, think these are all ongoing.
Okay. Greg, did you want to say something?
First a question. Goal number 5, global experiences. By that you mean out of the district?
That could be a piece of it. I think it's also certainly through literacy and social studies curriculums, and certainly world language programs, making sure that our students understand that they're part of something beyond Waterford, something beyond Connecticut, something beyond the United States, and even within Waterford, Connecticut, and the United States, they're going to cross paths with people from around the globe, either virtually or in person. So I don't think, certainly it wasn't, or it's not intended to say just we're going to support overseas field trips. That's certainly a piece of it.
I'd like to chew on that for a while. I don't know if that word expressed, so that those 2 words express that concept. With respect to goal number 5, in the second sentence, I would delete world language. I think that should be to identify best practices in education through the curriculum renewal process should be a goal for all our programs, not just the world language program. And a similar thought is with respect to goal number 7. The second sentence, we continue to establish budget priorities to meet all state and federal requirements, including providing a high-quality pre-kindergarten program for students with special needs. I would end the sentence after federal requirements because it seems to me that we're suggesting that that particular program has a higher priority than any other mandated program, and I don't think that's the case in our district.
Okay, that was a suggestion that I had because I'm concerned about the Friendship School. If we don't send our pre-K students there, even our regular ed pre-K students, I just wanted something for them because
that needs to be a different goal. I agree with Greg on that. I think that you first have a budget, and the other one is to provide a high-quality pre-kindergarten program for students would be another goal.
To make that number 9?
I agree. You're tying it into the budget only, and I think if we do want to offer pre-K, that has other issues.
Well, this is a mandated program that we're talking about.
The special ed, right? The special ed.
I don't ascribe any greater priority to that than I do to any other one, and I don't mean any personal disagreement with you. I don't want our administration focusing their efforts more on pre-K programs for disadvantaged students with special needs.
But we just don't have one yet. That was my point, that we didn't have one yet.
Oh, we have to have one. When we have this policy that says to go out there and meet those mandates, that's what we're going to do. But no more with respect to this than some other mandated program.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand why you may have put that in, because it is true there was sort of a sense that may not have been clearly understood by the board that the pre-K program is part of our full district program, that pre-K went all the way through 12th grade, and I think that was probably that insertion was to remind us that it's pre-K through 12, and I think that's for clarity's sake, you may have put that in. But if it's encompassed in that, then I think there's no harm as long as we all understand that in this district, it's a pre-K through 12 district.
When you say that there's no harm, these are our goals. It's an emphasis.
No, he said no harm to take if that's you're trying to point out. Yes, he did.
Okay, so you want to take that out? Is that the word?
Separate goal.
Yeah. Okay.
And wouldn't we say that a high-quality pre-K program for students not only with special needs, but all
students?
That's not a special goal for me.
Because it's not federally mandated. Is that what you're saying, Greg?
Well, if you're talking about a pre-K program for non-special needs children, yes, that is not a special goal for me because we have too many budget limitations. If you're talking about meeting a pre-K program for students with special needs, that's a common need together with all our other mandates. No greater, no less.
We have to do that.
Yeah,
it's mandated.
Right. It's mandated.
I think one of your concerns is that if we don't have the magnet school next year,
well, we're not going to be a part of it.
Responsibilities as a board, and I think that we might want to write a goal about that. But I don't think it's just about budget and mandated programs in number 7. I think you need, to tell you the truth, from the work that this board's been doing, I think you need to have a statement around investigate, the future of pre-K in this district. If you don't support the current program.
The reason why I asked Tom to put something about pre-K education in here is because I don't want our Waterford students to be at a disadvantage because we don't have pre-K anywhere.
Why would you think that?
Because they don't get it in daycare. I mean, you saw that report card with 4-year-olds, what they need to know to get into kindergarten. You know, they do some things in daycare, but they don't get the academics that they do at the Friendship School.
Suggesting that, you know, that we seek funding for a pre-K program for students who don't have special needs. Do you think that's the road we should go down?
Well, I think...
I mean, it'd be nice if we could do it. Realistically, do you think that's something that's in the cards?
I think it's our obligation to do it, our responsibility. Kathleen?
To kind of solve this a little bit tonight, and I agree with him, I don't think you have to have it related to this piece, but I do think that we've never had the discussion. Greg, I hear what you're saying, but we've never as a full board really truly discussed our priorities from pre-K.
No, we haven't.
And where does pre-K fit into that continuum? And I think that would be a worthy goal to see where we stood.
If we haven't had the discussion, how do you make that a goal?
We can make it a goal now.
A goal to discuss pre-K education.
To investigate.
Investigate.
Just like we do all the goals, and I take exception with your comment on the world language piece on number 5, because that was put in purposely, and we looked at that over the years when very willingly let the world language program go at the earlier grades, and we said, let's do a time to investigate world languages and global, maybe you have exception with global experience.
The sentence is identify best practices in world education through curriculum renewal process. Why would you want to limit that identification process to just world language?
Because we do it on a cycle when we review the curriculum, and this world language happens. Greg, do you want to help me with that? When we fit into that goal
I just want to say
during that
that
time.
one of the curricular areas that will be up for review in the summer of 2017 is world language. One of them. So to Greg's point, it would read okay without world language because we would want to identify the best practices in the other areas too, and we already have a curriculum revision cycle that shows that world language is up for review the summer of 2017. So in either case, I think that the needs would be met.
What are the other ones up for review?
Sorry to put that.
You don't have these memorized, Greg?
Memory at the moment. Thank you. So, counseling is one of them. Thank you, Jason, for helping me out. For which, again, we would want the best practices in counseling to be identified as well. So, thank you. And K-5 science. Thank you. It's been a long day.
We understand.
I didn't really.
Craig, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying, I mean, these are goals that are not like forever goals. They're for a particular school year, so I mean, that may be applicable for this school year. You know, not going forward, but that could be changed. I mean, that's another way to look at it, I guess.
Lynn?
A goal means that we have to be able to measure our own actions. I don't see that I will be, personally as a board member, identifying best practices in the world language. I would expect our staff to do that. So I would actually take out, that's a really more of a statement about the educational leadership and the teachers through the curriculum renewal process. Our roles on the board is to support the curriculum renewal process and to review the curriculum of anything that comes to us. But we're not personally identifying best practices in world language. So I agree with the second part being struck, and so I think that we need to support possibilities for global experiences, but I certainly don't think and I think we need to support the curriculum renewal process. I think we need to do that every year, depending, as Greg said, what comes up next summer. And this is for this year. So world language isn't even being reviewed until next summer. We can't meet this goal, and I don't think we should set a goal we can't meet.
Jody, may I just clarify? So I agree, and to change the language is fine. But just to give a little bit of history as to why, and perhaps why those words were chosen with the board, there was a gap between the language program in the middle school and in the high school, and the board was trying to determine and look at how we could solve that seamless continuum from middle school through to the high school, and I think that's what prompted this goal. So I have no objection with changing the type of language as long as that we don't give up on trying to improve our world language curriculum. That's all. So, the wording, you may be right.
Maybe we need to just rethink the wording.
That's it. That's what I certainly have no problem.
Well, that's why this is just a draft, and that's why we're having this discussion tonight. We haven't voted on it yet.
What committee does goals? I'll work on that.
There you go.
Do we have a goals committee?
We do it.
Not specific.
We do it together.
I can certainly take the feedback here tonight, flush it out over the next 28 days, bring back another version next month.
If I may, we're going to get to that, I think, when we look at the magnet school, but a lot of the comments in the surveys were looking at language offerings. I think it's good to keep it right where keep that in.
And I think years ago we did have world language. We had Spanish in our elementary schools, and it really bothered quite a few of us that are still on the board that we had to cut that out of our curriculum. And we were just trying to look at a way to maybe put it back, and also to help Clark Lane, the difference between the Clark Lane world language classes and the high school, and have it be more of a feeder program. That's what I think we wanted. Yeah. Okay. Well, I asked you, I kind of spoke out of turn, I asked you if you wanted to serve on those committees that are open that Kevin was serving on. So now we're on item D, discussion and presentation, the 2015-16 Magnet School Survey data, and that was enclosed in our packet.
An information item for the board tonight. Last year, a recommendation from this board, I think it was Mr. Merriman, asked us if we surveyed parents who sent their children to magnet school, and at that point, we didn't. We did a little research last winter, last spring, to see if anybody was surveying parents who sent their children to middle school, and we got a couple model surveys from different districts, and we put together our own survey. So last spring, we surveyed all parents who send their children to a magnet school to see, basically to drill down as to why. Not all responded. You have that data here tonight, and you certainly have it in front of you, in your packet. Everything that's on the slides tonight is in your packet, just in a different format for the public. We thought it'd be good to put some slides together. Craig, if you want to kind of go through the data?
Sure. There were, as Tom mentioned, 99 mailings to families. In the back of your packet, you can see the letter that we created and the questions and how they were asked electronically and on paper because we didn't want any roadblocks to get the data back. We had 32 families. Some families may have had multiple children, so if you count, it's more than 32. But I think any survey that you get more than 20% back is a healthy one. So I think we have a good data set to look at. The children, 14 were from the elementary level, 5 from the middle school, 16 from the high school. You can see the exact breakout in what parts of our district.
How did you get a 6.3% response to 15? Okay. Strike that.
Then when we look at where those children are going to, so the same 35 response, we can see what magnet schools they're going to, between Learn Magnet Schools and the London Public School Magnet School. We asked all the families some questions, and the themes that came out are really the following. Parents are sending their kids to magnet schools because there's a school with a special theme of focus. Again, we get into next steps. I think we have to show our strength in that area. School offering courses not currently available by Waterford Public School. Again, this is parents' perception and takeaways from this area. So when we drill down the data and it talks about ECE offerings, we offer a lot of that. So I think we first have to make sure we educate our community into what offerings we have. There are some offerings that some magnet schools offer very specific things that we do not offer. Schools have more racial and ethnic diversity. That's the whole genesis of why the magnet school concept came up in the state. And so I'm not sure there's a quick remedy for that because our population in town right now. I will say, since my tenure in Waterford, we have grown to be a much more diverse town than ever before, with sort of ethnic numbers from the low 7% to now the 19%. So I do think that we're more diverse, but parents may be wanting even more than that. And schools that outperform Waterford Public School, again, parent perception, I think we have a very solid program too. So what does all this mean for us? The themes that parents feel that Waterford is not offering are the following. Some that maybe can't see because of the font. World language opportunities, STEM. We had a little brief discussion about that earlier today. Some specific programs with respect to either biomedical or engineering, marine science course offerings. So I will put our marine science program at the high school up against anyone.
It was right on the front page of the day.
ECE and UConn classes, and again, we offer, I believe, 21.
Yeah, I didn't understand that one because we
ECE offerings, so I think that's very good. If you look statewide, we may not be the exact highest out state, but we're certainly in that top quartile of offerings. And enrichment opportunities. When we look at enrichment opportunities and we look at in school, like the middle school, having electives and after school opportunities, I do think we have that.
As a fact checker, do any of the magnet schools offer greater world language opportunities than any?
So yes, some. So dual language has, the whole focus being where you're immersed in Spanish. So that's almost like a bilingual type of opportunity, which we do not have. The
design or because of the population of students that are attending the school?
By design.
Yeah, it's parents who want that. And then I was going to say the Three Rivers Middle College would be able to, kids could elect to take whatever Three Rivers is offering too, which may have a little more diversity in languages than our three current. So to answer your question. So we want to use this to help us improve Waterford. And the next step, we've talked about some of them tonight, but to kind of reiterate, I think we want to spend time when we do a curricular revision on world language to really look at more language opportunities, either virtual high school opportunities, teacher-directed opportunities, and to strengthen the program that we have, and maybe diverse it a little when we go through that curricular revision. Marcia?
On the one about the better articulation to parents about STEM at Waterford High School, we need to do it about Clark Lane as well.
District-wide, K-12.
We started at the high school because we really had some discussions with our director of guidance, school counseling, and our administrator about realigning our program of studies to be more specific that there's different pathways within our program of studies. And I think we'd start there, and then I think we would work down. But point well taken.
We plan to bring the board that articulation of pathways soon.
Okay.
That doesn't mean hours. That means we're working on it. That work began last spring, really.
Okay, good.
The program of studies has to go to print really around Christmas, so that, believe it or not, so we're ready to have 8th graders and 9th, 10th, and 11th graders sign up for next year. So that's why we're starting there.
And when would it trickle down to the middle school?
I think it can be,
concurrently?
we can put all of our administrators on notice, but I'm just going to say probably the first thing that you'll see as a visible sign would be the program of studies piece.
Okay.
We're also thinking about, our web presence and what are our opportunities. So, continuing a little bit with the high school, I think identifying all of the higher learning opportunities that a child at the high school can get with respect to AP, ECE, and UConn credit. To your point, the STEM pathway can be articulated at the middle school clearly, and I do think our elementaries are very strong.
Yeah.
We're doing very solid work around coding. We talk about engineering in kindergarten, what that looks like. We've had presentations around that before. I think we're doing outstanding work in literacy, and math we're strengthening through workshops.
But I think if we hook them in the elementary and in the middle school, they're just going to follow on into the high school. We need to get that whole path going all the way through. But especially the connection between the middle school and the high school is paramount, in my opinion.
I agree, and to that end, we have now for 2 years had very deliberate transition programs, 8th grade field trips over to the middle school. The middle school really working with the high school on nice opportunities for parents to really show the comprehensive high school that we have, but there's more work to be done.
Kathleen? Just a thought, because I was thinking the same thing on that transition, and we had the video, remember, with the 8th grade student, and I know a lot of our high school students receive credit while they're in high school, and maybe, I don't know, just a thought, could have a little video with those students mentioning all the advantages they had by getting so many credits before they went on, and how just for future thought, and then maybe put that on, if they give permission, on a website, just to help with the facilitation of some of this communication, because you're absolutely right when it was mentioned that the credits that you can receive, they only mentioned one school, but we have so many schools that we're partnering with. So I think the goal is to just really both, not to take away from parental choice. I want to go on the record. I think parents have the right to choose, but we want to also let them know about all the good programs that we have.
It's all about communication.
Primary child care program gets Rivers credits too, so we even have a partnership there.
And we're offering finance at Clark Lane now. So, I mean, we're doing some really, really good things. It's just the community doesn't know about it yet.
I think it's how it's branded too. If you start using some of that same terminology that the schools use, you can kind of make those tie-ins, because perception is reality to people. You know, whether or not it's true doesn't matter. It's what they have in their head, and they think, well, this is a better choice. They can, you know, sort of make up their own data to back their decision.
You're absolutely right, Craig. You got to, you know, you're comparing apples to oranges. If they don't see the same terminology, they're not going to think it's apples and apples.
Right.
So I guess in conclusion, I want to first thank our board for pushing us in the direction of looking at this data and trying to get this data, because I think it now tells a story that can help our system move forward. And what I've articulated is just some of the steps that we'll be working on in making us move forward. Just know that the state really kind of puts the October 1 deadline on student enrollment and data, so we'll be doing a new survey annually on this with students and see if we get a consistent theme or if we're going to learn anything else. So that's all I have on this. If there are any other questions.
Catherine? Very fast. When you looked at the survey, and I don't know how to frame this question, but I thought maybe part of it could say, if we met these objectives that the parents are saying, for example, if they said they needed more credit, and then we produce that information, a question saying, if you were to meet these, if the district met these desirable, would you then consider, just have a follow-up to see if we, as we go through, and we're meeting some of these demands, would they then be apt to change their opinion and come back? I don't know how to frame that, but with a little thought, you could probably come up with and take the last part of the survey back and move it up into, so you don't lose anything, but just make it the fifth one as a follow-up to see if they would change their opinion, because I think that's our whole purpose, to find out if we can attract me, to see if we're losing anyone.
Tom, did you want to say
Sure, just really closing. It's really twofold, and to just recap, it's really identifying what we have and marketing that and publicizing that, and identifying areas of opportunity that for things that we don't currently offer, if that might flesh out into strategic planning, and certainly the board's goals. I do know that to simply sit back and rely on traditional press to assist us in getting the word out, they have a lot of competing priorities. So it's that we know we have to go beyond traditional press coverage, which is obviously by the Lancer article in the paper, both in Patch and the Day, has been immensely successful for the district. But we know we're looking at social media presence, we're looking at print and digital resources, video as mentioned, so we're starting to really pull together content at this point. Caroline is doing a great job digging and scavenging and getting some of that information together from various sources throughout the district. So we know it won't be overnight, but we're committed to building that PR that we know we need. Not only to address magnet concerns, but also in this era of tough budgetary times, letting our community know that how the money is being spent and the good things that this district is doing. So it serves multiple purposes. We will survey this year's crop of new magnet parents, and we'll report back to you at a later date, later in the year or early next year.
Are there more magnet parents, magnet students this year than last?
Numbers still trickling in. Middle school and high school look similar to last year. Slight uptick, or probably a little greater than slight, an uptick in elementary magnet families.
So usually when you
it's the communication, because Winthrop has that. Or Nathan Hale, rather. You have that ad in the paper almost every Sunday about how great the school is. So we're going to give you some competition.
usually what we do is wait till October 1. That's when we do kind of like, here's the numbers, and then show on the enrollment reports, and then we can give you a little more detail on the breakdown, because, parents might go to one school, decide not to. After October 1, we'll have more solid information.
We have 22 more students at the high school this year than last, right?
The
Or each
graduating
group's going
class
up.
was smaller than this year's incoming freshman
Mhm.
class, yes.
Amanda?
I just wondered, in the years since we have started losing families, so to speak, to the, and you probably do, does someone from admin just kind of call, even if it's 32, however many families, just touching base? I noticed that you have not signed up for Great Neck or Parkland or whatever. Again, just wanted to talk to you about it, and just more on a more personal level, to sort of reach out and say, maybe it could be the principal of the particular school, or it could be a teacher that maybe the child had that teacher and the parents really liked them, but they decided to go. I mean, maybe they have a connection. Just that really personal.
That's a good idea.
And to answer your question, no, we haven't done that today. So that would be something that I think would be great moving forward. So thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Can I
Kathleen?
just make a comment? I have to do this because the letter was so well written that went out to the magnet school parents. I thought somewhere in here you said, or if you prefer to call. Did I make that? I thought I read that somewhere and you just brought it up in the letter.
That was to gain the magnet school feedback. I think that's a little different than what Amanda's saying, which is
Reach out individually.
if you don't see the child registered, then do you reach out and do that courtesy call if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, I mean, if you know for a fact that they still obviously live in Waterford, but they're not attending, it might be nice to have that connection and maybe get this feedback.
It's a good idea. Anything else? Okay, now we're on to the last item, E, the first reading of policies, Series 9000, the bylaws of the Board of Education. That was enclosed in our packet.
Haven't had a policy committee meeting, but I did take the liberty of pushing this through for first reading based upon a board member's request to look at the policy. It's in our bylaws. Upon proper scrutiny of the policy, I wanted to change the more antiquated, and we used to give out paper policies, and we used to collect Board of Ed policy books every summer and reconcile them. We don't do that very laborious paper task because everything's online. So the first change is to really catch up with the present day technology. And on the second page, I don't think our policy really hit the nail on the head by allowing us to do a policy being presented and approved at one meeting when it comes to required by law. We just sort of mention board regulations and Connecticut state statutes, but if you just say required by law, this has been vetted through our legal counsel. This would allow us, not require us, it would allow us to present statutorily required changes at one meeting for the full board, and if the board chooses to then adopt that policy at the one meeting, that would be allowed.
And that would save time, too.
If the board needed more time to deliberate, there would be no reason why we would need to rush through, and it would be solely for the purpose of those statutory changes.
Good idea.
So this is for first reading. The intent would be next meeting for second reading, unless there's questions now, and then after that, if we approve it, and then we have other policies that are statutorily approved, we could approve them also in that first meeting because of the sequence. That's why I'm bringing that forward tonight.
Okay, any questions, Kathleen?
So if someone wanted a second reading, even though it's a mandate coming from the state, you could just ask at that meeting to have a second reading, or you could just put it through.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay, anything else? Okay, that's it. Ann is not here tonight. Oh, thank you all for coming tonight. And we can go home and watch the Patriots game. Is there a motion to adjourn? Lisa, is there a second? Amanda? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Tom, I was looking for, listen, I hope to, with the green rooms and when the kids were little, Dr. Katnack.